A 15-year-old girl listens to the radio one afternoon. Her favorite pop DJ is on. In fact, he's the only pop DJ at the time, and every teenager in Denmark listens to his top 10 program every Sunday afternoon to find out what's in and what's not. But then this is the early 70s, and there isn't much choice. But this program is different, though. Jan Mylius, DJ, plays tracks from a brand new rock opera, first shown on Broadway in October 1971. It's called Jesus Christ Superstar. And the girl is absolutely fascinated. She's never heard anything quite like that before. 6 months later, the girl listens to the same songs again, but this time live in the concert hall in Copenhagen near her school. Whereas as one of the journalists on the school paper, she has volunteered to cover the premiere of Jesus Christ Superstar Danish version. When she leaves the concert hall that night to walk home, everything has changed. And although she is not fully aware of it or aware of it at all, she has started on a journey to find out who this Jesus that she just heard about and seen portrayed there on the stage, who he really is. During the summer holidays, she visits a couple of churches, and 6 months after Jesus Christ Superstar has been shown, the girl enters the Salvation Army in Copenhagen, and at the end of the meeting, kneels at the mercy seat in prayer and dedication and amazement, because she still hasn't really got much of a clue of what it's all about. I probably don't have to tell you who that girl is, or that her life is changed forever. She met and was met by Jesus himself. I nearly brought a picture to show you of what that girl looked like when she put on a uniform at the age of 16, but it's depressing enough to have looked at the pictures of Graham and myself being shown here, how ridiculously young we looked 20 years ago when that picture was taken. So I didn't want to go even further back. She met and was met by Jesus, and it changed everything. Now, this happened more than 50 years ago, but let's go even further back to something that happened around 2,800 years ago to Isaiah. And I wonder if his experience is still relevant to us today. So let's turn to Isaiah chapter 6 and read some of those verses and what happened to Isaiah. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, and 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they called to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorpost and threshold shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried. I'm ruined, for I'm a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the Lord, the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go and tell this people. Isaiah was not yet a prophet. He was just an ordinary man who had an extraordinary encounter with God that changed his life. We often read from the book of Isaiah at Christmas time. We know that Jesus quoted Isaiah more than any other prophet when he wanted to explain stuff to his disciples and to the people around him. And this is how it all began for Isaiah. This fantastic vision of God, which then led God to God giving him visions of the state of Isaiah's own country and the wider world, speaking into what was happening at the time and what would happen in the immediate future and what would happen into eternity. Isaiah met God and it changed everything. I don't suppose it happened just like that for you, or as you heard earlier for me, with seraphim and doorposts shaking and rooms filled with smoke. I'm not sure we could have coped with it either. But the fact remains that when we encounter God and respond to him with a great big yes, he gives us a vision of who and what we could be and should be and what we should do. And I thought of this a while ago whilst reading the words of the song that we're going to close with a little bit later. It's a song, "We Have Caught the Vision Splendid." And it says in the second verse, "We would help to build the city of our God so wondrous fair. Give our time, bring all our talents, and each gift of beauty rare. Powers of mind and strength of purpose, days of labor, nights of strain, that God's will may be accomplished o'er the kingdoms he shall reign." When I met Jesus, I felt in safe hands, although I didn't really understand what was happening. As I said, I didn't really have a clue. When you met Jesus, did you feel in safe hands too? I hope so. Oh, I hope you will one day when you allow him a place in your life. It felt like we'd come home. It felt like we belonged. And I hope you feel safe and at home in this place too, learning about God, learning how to live as Christians, sharing this wonderful fellowship with each other. Encountering God, saying yes to him and working to fulfill his vision just where we are can help us to feel happy, to have purpose, to feel safe, to belong, even at the very hardest or the very saddest times. But I realize that none of us can do it in our own strength. Not you, not I, not Isaiah 2,800 years ago, not the Sing Company who sang about Jesus just a minute ago. We can only do it by following Jesus closely, seeing the vision God gives us, looking at Jesus and how he went about living his life, and then trying to live out his faith. When we follow Jesus, walk with him, and work for him, we are in safe hands, and he carefully and safely carries us through all the ups and downs of our lives. He doesn't promise us that there will be no downs, that there will be no sad times, but he promises, again as the Sing Company so beautifully sang, that he'll be with us through it all. So back to Isaiah one final time. When he encountered God, and when we do, there are three natural responses, and I think they're going to come up on the screen. The first one is to fall on our knees and to acknowledge that he is our Lord, our God, King of the universe. The second response is woe, or at least that's a word used in the book of Isaiah, realizing that we are nothing without him, that we cannot do much or anything in our own strength, but that with lives giving over to him, we can not only survive, but thrive. And thirdly and finally, as God reaches out to us, we can reach out to him and say, "Here I am, send me." Now, whether we can do a lot or a little does not matter. We sang, I think it was last week, "My Father does not ask that I great gifts on him bestow, but only that I love him too and serve him here below." Isaiah responded in these three ways. I responded in this way, and you did. And if you haven't already, you can do, because God is reaching out to all of us just now. You're my Lord. I can't do much, if anything, without you. But here I am. Send me. Earlier we read from Romans chapter 10, where Paul says, "But how? And how? And how? How can they call? How can they believe? How can they hear unless someone is sent to preach? And how can we be sent to preach? How can people find God unless you and I respond and are sent out?" It has been said that you may be the only Bible some people will ever read. You, just where you are on a Monday or a Thursday, in the morning or in the evening or sometime during the middle of the day, you may be the only Bible that some people will ever read. Do you find that exciting, or do you find that daunting? It's a bit scary, isn't it? Especially if you're not a natural evangelist. Some people are. Most of us are not. Some years ago, one of our colleagues in his first appointment was delayed in Southampton Airport because of bad weather for quite a few hours. And every hour or so, he would text Graham, who was kind of his boss at the time, with an update. Text 1, delayed. Text 2, still delayed, but that's okay because we're telling the people we're sitting by about Jesus. Text 3, yes, still delayed, but we've just prayed with a couple we've been talking to. Text 4, back in the Channel Islands, and the couple we prayed with has asked us to conduct their wedding. I mean, that was him. One of the most natural evangelists I've ever met. I couldn't have done that. Most of you probably couldn't, although I reckon there are a couple of you who are natural evangelists, and if you think you might be one of them, ask me later if I agree with you. But if you and I are not brave or confident enough, how can we be the only Bible that some people will ever read? How can we help people hear and know God? I read a quote a while back by a guy called Louis Giglio. I don't know how to pronounce his name. And here's the quote, and I really love it. I find it very, very comforting. He says, "Don't overcomplicate God's will. Just stay connected to Jesus. Love him, look into his eyes. He will lead, follow, repeat." Don't overcomplicate God's will. Just stay connected to him, to Jesus. Love him, look into his eyes. He will lead. Just follow, and then repeat, and repeat, and repeat.